I know I totally went to, like, offer sex to him so that I could stay alive, but he's, like, totally the worst. Right?
He is, like, literally the worst.
The worst. Capital worst.
I'm surprised somebody on the set or one of the actors or whatever didn't use the line, "Hell has no fury like a woman scorned."
Oh, yeah. It's the only thing missing from this movie. Jesus.
And whoever
really
would have written that would have thought that they made it up.
No problem.
Too.
I mean, she does bring out the point that she's like, our children are going to pay for his sins. Like, all this blood will be on our hands, and maybe we shouldn't be doing this. So,
but that's also a problem. I mean, a Romulan senator talking, like, having a conscience about war. I mean, that okay, so once again, I think that the tie. Picard series is 20 years after this movie, right? Like, that's what we know as far as the series is concerned. In some deleted scene, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to, like, just go off on a tangent here, so stop me. In one of the deleted scenes, actually Riker actually gets to say goodbye to Picard, as he's leaving the ship, not just turns around and walks away. But he talks about how the Titan. Is actually I think they left that in the movie. The Titan is on the way to the neutral zone to discuss talks, right?
Right.
And I think that in this future, in the Picard series, that the Romulans and the Terran, the Federation, are going to start making amends. Obviously, they might be in the middle of some kind of, like, really loose treaty, like there is with the Cardassians. But I think that her character, even though she realizes she made a mistake, and by trusting this guy, I think that her character has progressed way too quickly in this short amount of time to, like, be such a buddy old pal. Like, if she's going to show up in that battle scene, which obviously we're going to talk about, I'm like, oh, make it a Romulan ale, Captain. Like, no. Maybe show up and be like, hey, stay out of her way. We're going to take care of our own mess. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? Like, okay, and like, that's cool, because then you can say, okay, she has a little bit of a conscience, but she's still an asshole because she's a Romulan.
Right.
But what she does show up, and the progression that she makes going forward, it's just so. It's too much.
Well, again, too, I think it speaks to the lack of character development for her. Like, we know nothing about her other than she's okay with Shinzon killing the Senate. She wants to offer him sex, and now she turns against him and wants to chill with the Federation. Like, there's nothing. I don't know anything about her character other than what this movie tells me. And so it doesn't, nothing she does, I don't understand any of her motivation, like, other than this one speech where she gives about, like, our children will have to pay for the sins of this man. It's like, oh, so you feel this way about it, but you didn't before when you were like, I'll trade you sex for favors. Like, I don't, it's very strange. It's not, no development, unfortunately, of this character. Anyway, so we find out that Shinzon was created or cloned using temporal RNA sequencing. And if I've said it once, I've said it a million times, never use temporal RNA sequencing. I mean, if I had a nickel every time I've said that.
I mean, you have gotten some nickels from that, I think. You don't have a regular job. You just live off your
I live off the nickels.
Right? Yeah.
I live off the nickels I get from every time I say never use temporal RNA sequencing. That's how often I say it. Which, he was supposed to basically he was supposed to skip 30 years to age him up very quickly. That did not happen. They let him develop naturally, and now he's dying because of reasons. And the only thing that will save him is a complete transfusion from Picard. So that's not going to happen. So there's really no hope for this guy, apparently. And Picard, he's definitely like, oh boy, like, that's like. Obviously, he doesn't want, like, Shinzon to die for nothing. He'd like him to somehow be able to come out of this experience, maybe somehow salvage something, but that's not going to happen. We see Data basically having a quick conversation with B4, tells him, I've got to turn you off because you're too dangerous. He shuts him down indefinitely. And, you can see Data's kind of, sad about it because, Lore was his brother and he wasn't a very good brother. His father is dead. And this is like his only, quote unquote relative. And he's useless. And he's too dangerous to basically be kept alive. And so
he's not dangerous though. He's
not useless. He keeps a seat filled.
Just drink a few glasses of water and maybe a Gatorade. He'd be okay again. Like
he just needs a Snickers. It's like he eats a Snickers and all of a sudden he's just like Data.
Yeah. So we do find out a little bit more about this weapon. Geordi says that the weapon is a cascading biogenic pulse. It could encompass a ship or even a planet. So it's like basically almost like a Galactus, if you're a Marvel comic reader, I guess. It can devour a whole planet even. And it would cripple the Federation. The Romulans would take over. That's pretty much the plan here for as far as Shinzon's concerned. And they still have no way to penetrate his cloak. But the Enterprise will rendezvous with the rest of the fleet. We see them getting ready for battle. Everyone's getting a phaser rifle. People are pressing buttons. Things are happening on the Enterprise as they get ready for battle. So then we do get a pretty important scene here. Data and Picard are in stellar cartography. And they have kind of a, again, back to the theme of like nature versus nurture. They're talking about how B4 and Shinzon are basically like versions of themselves, but they could be different if given the opportunity, or are they actually the same? Like that's kind of the question that Picard poses. And I actually do enjoy this conversation too. I think it's one of the better parts of the movie as well, like when they kind of come back to this theme of nature versus nurture, and Data and Picard kind of grappling with this idea of, can our copies be, more than the sum of their parts? And then Picard drops this quote here, which I had to look up because I didn't know where it was from. He says, "For now we see but through a glass darkly," which is actually a quote from the Bible, 1 Corinthians 13:12, which does kind of talk about, again, this whole idea of seeing yourself in kind of an odd way. What else here? So then finally, they get to the Bassin Rift, which is where they're headed, but it cuts off all long-range communication. Picard realizes this is an ambush, and before they can really start doing any evasive maneuvers, they are fired on by the Scimitar. And we're back. That was a good break. All right, so when last we left our intrepid crew, they were being fired on by the Scimitar, who they can fire while they're cloaked, which usually most cloaking devices do not let you do that. You have to decloak. So that's brand new technology for these guys here.
Oh no, introducing something new.
Oh no, actually, I take it back. This is not introducing something new, because in Star Trek VI Undiscovered Country, the Klingons had a ship that could do it.
Whoa.
They could fire while they were cloaked. I forgot about facts. So
Great movie.
Great movie. I mean, the last of the original series cast movies, and what a way to go out. I mean, you had this really awesome. That's a whole other podcast. Stay on track, Rebecca. Okay, so. The Scimitar does not want to destroy the Enterprise because they still need Picard alive, because they need to do apparently a whole blood transfusion, like to empty him completely. So they're targeting Enterprise weapons and shields. Enterprise loses their warp engines, and they are basically shooting blind with their phasers, trying to hit the Scimitar. But of course, they can't find them with the cloak on. we get this like extended space battle. There's lots of firing back and forth, and Shinzon hails the Enterprise, tells Picard, "Meet me in your ready room," and everyone's like, "What's this about?" And Shinzon is a hologram. He tells Picard that he should surrender, and that he only wants him, not his ship. And, Picard again tries to reason with him. We kind of get this whole, here we go again with the Star Wars use the Force business, because it's like, search your feelings. You can't do this. You turn away from the dark side and come to the light. And it's a bit of a Star Trek moment, trying to get him to come over to be a Jedi and not a Sith. And he's telling Shinzon, like, it's not too late to change. We're both made of the same raw materials. You could be more than what you are. And Shinzon is like, nah, too late to change. I'm going to keep being evil. And he leaves. So this is when we get 2 Romulan warbirds arrive, and they are here to help the Enterprise. They are not here to help Shinzon. More space battles, more shooting each other up. Thank you for correcting my bad spelling, whoever did that in the notes. I appreciate it. One of the warbirds gets pretty badly damaged. This is where we get the scene where Shinzon, they can disable one part of their cloak. He kind of plays dead in the water, and when the other warbird flies over to fire, they attack it and basically disable it, and they are dead in the water. So, I mean, what did you guys think of all the space battle stuff, all the shooting, all the pew, pew, pew? Did it work for you? Like, did you enjoy it?
I mean, I liked it. I liked it. It might be simplistic, but I think that this is where this director was hired. This guy that directed, or edited Die Hard and Lethal Weapon 2 and these big production, like, fight movies or whatever. And I enjoyed this space battle. I thought that the weaponry and the pew pew looked really good. And despite what you said about only disabling like part of the cloak, I thought it was a really good move. And I really enjoyed the flyover scene where he's destroying the underbelly of that ship. I thought visually it actually looked very well done for 2002 in my opinion.
Can I put the pew pew looked really good on a t-shirt? That's like the best quote of the day.
I did enjoy that quote. The pew pew looked really good. I think that is brilliant.
I mean, it's a universal term. Everybody knows what pew pew is.
Right? Pew 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 pew. Oh, it must be a space battle with lasers.
There we go.
Of course it is.
See, you knew what I was talking about. Even if you hadn't seen the movie, you knew what I was talking about.
Exactly. The Enterprise is like on fire everywhere, and everything's falling apart. And then Deanna says that she has a way to find the scimitar. Good thing that she was mentally raped, because now she can find her rapist. That's great. She can sense his presence so exactly that she can pinpoint the exact coordinates where they are, because apparently she can do that now. And she helps Worf figure out where they are, and Worf fires their phasers or the photon torpedoes and right at the scimitar. But again, this is one of those things where like the writers never knew what to do with Deanna Troi. Like they gave her this ability to be empathic, and then the problem is if you let her use it all the time, your episode is over in 10 minutes, because it's like, I wonder if this alien species is lying. And then Deanna Troi's like, yep, they're totally lying. All right, let's get out of here. Episode over. So they would give her different powers depending on what they needed her to do in the episode. In this movie, she can pinpoint exactly where a ship is in space, which I don't think she ever really did that before. But okay.
I mean, Hellboy Viceroy was like, we're connected now, or whatever.
Yeah,
so,
he was.
I think that's the sort of explanation for why she can find them now.
And it's a very big ship, so I mean they could even if it's a general area, it's probably going to hit the ship in some form.
Good point.
I didn't realize until like this end when they're right next to each other how big it was, because they just kept showing it and it was far away. You know what I mean? So I just thought it was
Yeah.
a smaller ship, but it was quite a bit.
You see it the first time when they encounter it, they do this wide outside shot where I really like the line that